Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I'm in Cinque Terre still, and I'm leaving tomorrow to go to just outside of Forenza. And I thought I'd do a book review of a book that I recently read called by Will Durant, and it is called The Story of Philosophy. It's actually published in 1927, but I listened to the audio version, which is somewhat newer, but it's still the same old words. And I'm definitely a big student of philosophy, so I've been more familiar with the older philosophers, the Stoic philosophers, and Socrates and Aristotle and Plato. But I wanted to familiarize myself with some of the newer ones and just kind of get the whole picture of the evolution of philosophy. So I picked up this book, and this is one I've been pretty excited to read. So I read the book, and I have to say it was a pretty good book. I definitely would recommend it. It had a lot of good background. There were a few things. I'm going to pick on more of the bad things that I thought about the book, because those are the things that, like everything else was great. So, I mean, what's not great about philosophy? Philosophy is awesome. Philosophy is life. We should all be philosophers, right? So, as far as the bad things, okay, what was kind of the bad things here? So, one of the big bad things with the book was that he skips the Stoic philosophers. That kind of sucks. Oh, by the way, have you seen the view here? It's amazing. This Cinque Terre area is just amazing. Went in the water. It's beautiful, awesome. So anyway, he's got a lot of good philosophers in there, and he just briefly glosses over Seneca, who's my favorite philosopher of all time, honestly, and a few others. So that was a bit of a disappointment to me. I would have liked to see him focus more on the Stoic philosophers, and I think that it just seems like he didn't understand Stoic philosophy, which is fine. I mean, I totally understand that, especially at that time, it wasn't studied that much. I mean, it's become more popular now, and more people read it, and kind of what is viewed as Stoic philosophy has changed because of that. So there's definitely 1927. There's definitely a good excuse for that. So that was one negative. The other one, if I could give any other negative to the book, would possibly be that I'm not sure of of Will Durant's religious background or political leanings, but he definitely tended to mix a lot of his own opinion into the book as far as the philosophies and evaluating them. Now, again, being an author of a book, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that if you're going to tell the story of philosophy, I'm not sure if I want so much for you to, it becomes a little bit difficult to trust his opinion of philosophers when he has his own philosophy, which, I mean, we all do, but that is somewhat biased towards his viewpoint and makes, and he might sort of cast a negative light on some of the philosophies and philosophers who tend to hold a different view. Now, I would guess that he's probably has a very religious, maybe Christian viewpoint, and so a lot of the philosophers that would sort of go against that, he kind of gives it to him a little bit, but he does do a very good job of evaluating all the philosophies. So with that said, I know it might seem like I have a negative view of the book, but I don't, honestly. Overall, I give the book, 5 stars for sure, definitely. One of the must-read books, I think. Will Durant really does his research and knows his stuff, and this is an old book from 1927, but it's still very good wisdom for today. And just the way that he tells a story, the way that he sums up philosophy, the philosophers, I think is really good. It's a lot to try and study timelines of history on your own, right? One of the best ways to teach history, which Will Durant is known for doing, is to tell it in a story fashion where, one thing builds on the next and to make it a story, right? Joseph Campbell's really good at this as far as mythology as well. So I highly recommend the book, and I think it's a really good way to come up to speed. I learned a lot. I feel like after reading the book, I've got a much more clear timeline of the different philosophers and how the philosophy evolved, and I can really say that, I haven't read a lot of Spinoza, but I understand the basics, right? I understand what his general philosophy is, like a summary of his philosophy. The same thing with a lot of the different philosophers. So there's a huge value in this because, not everyone is going to have time to read everything that Voltaire wrote, or Spinoza, or Bertrand Russell, or, Seneca, or Plato's Republic, or all of these things. So if you can sort of get a lay of the land and then go back and read some of the philosophers that you like, I think that's better. If you're just going to be totally a major in philosophy, then maybe you're going to read all those things, but it could still take a lifetime to read everything that's been written by a lot of the great philosophers. So to be able to understand the concepts and how that moved the ball forward, so to speak, as in terms of philosophy, I think that's a really good thing. And that's done really well in this book. So go check it out. Hey, and if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you click the subscribe button so you can subscribe to this channel. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.